How these
So
compare.
store-bought versus Wonderful Wife. Goodness, let's see how this compares.
Mine were wetter, right?
More moist, and you know what? The other one was missing like that sweetness that you put a wonderful blueberry in.
You like the blueberries. I think that might be what makes it wetter too.
It's wonderful. Absolutely delicious.
Okay, so I got to try by Flax for Life their muffins, and I'm trying to do a knockoff. So I've looked at a few different recipe ideas, and I've come up with a formulation that we're going to try. I have lots of blueberries to use, so I'm going to make like a lemon blueberry today, but I'm going to do a loaded bran muffin, I think, on another day. So this is what we're going to try. We're going to try 1 cup of flax meal, 1 cup of whatever flour blend you want to use. So the picture I took of the ones I ate were oat flour, but I really like quinoa flour as long as it's not all quinoa flour. And I've used almond flour, but it does make for a bit of a denser muffin probably, but nice and moist. So I upped my eggs because I do like a lot of eggs in everything. So I'm going to go with 2 eggs and a half a cup of whites, but you could do a full cup of whites and skip the eggs altogether, or you could do just 4 whole eggs. So depending on what kind of you want to do with that, but I've got some egg whites to use, so I'm going to do a half cup of egg whites and 2 full eggs today. Sweetener of choice, a half cup of your sweetener. I'll probably do split it between coconut sugar and some allulose, like half and half, so a quarter cup of each. But you could use honey, you could use whatever you want and see how it turns out. I'm going to use a half a cup of a puree. My recipe that I have taken a picture was plum, but I do have some applesauce left in the fridge that I'm going to use up. You could just use a pumpkin puree too, or you could just use a buttermilk and just scrap this, use the puree. You could just make a milk. So any, vegan milk or any milk you like, and then just put a little splash of apple cider, a couple teaspoons, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in it, and just let it sit there for about 5 minutes, and you got buttermilk. So that you could do that in place of that. These are optional. They were in the muffins I had, and I know they improve the texture, but you don't need them, especially when you're using like so much flax that's so binding and so many eggs that's so binding. You definitely don't need them, but I'm going to throw in a teaspoon of xanthan gum and a teaspoon of lecithin. I'm using a soy lecithin, but it's very good for the liver, and you can look into that or skip it. I'm going to use a tablespoon of whatever choice, like if I was doing a loaded one, I would put in a tablespoon of cinnamon. I like the Ceylon. It's not super strong, so a tablespoon doesn't taste overpowering to me at all. But you could use kind of any spice you like, allspice or pumpkin spice or whatever kind of you got going. I might skip that because I'm doing a lemon. I might actually, I'll probably use just some vanilla in place of that because I'm going to do the blueberry lemon. So I'm going to use the rind of a lemon today to go with the blueberries, but probably I would use a rind of an orange if I was going to do like the carrot, raisin, zucchini kind of ground up kind of thing. Half a cup of nuts or seeds. So I think I might use some hemp hearts today, just to kind of keep it a little bit more blueberry-ish, but otherwise in a loaded muffin I really like pecans and walnuts and stuff like that. So you could also add in, so a full cup, I think you could probably add in enough stir-ins, whether you wanted it all nuts or all seeds or all fruit or half and half. I'm going to do the blueberries, so I will do quite a bit of blueberries. I might even do a whole cup of blueberries and just a few hemp hearts kind of thing. You could throw in a couple tablespoons of molasses, just a swig. I don't like a lot of salt. I'm keeping my salt low, so I'll probably just do a quarter teaspoon of salt, but you could use a teaspoon, up to probably, some recipes call for a lot of salt. I don't like that, but maybe up to half a teaspoon. And a half cup of oil. I'm probably going to throw some olive oil or coconut oil in there. But if you don't want to use oil, if you want to go oil-free, you can just double up on the puree or the buttermilk. So that's kind of how this works. You can always just flip-flop around your wet ingredients for your dry. As long as you're not playing with things like binders, you have to keep the binders in mind and stuff like that. But so let's see how my recipe turns out. Okay, 1 cup of flax going in. There's half and whole. I'm going to go with all sprouted oats for my other cup. They're in my blender. I'm going to zip that through. They're in. All right, 2 eggs in. Beautiful duck eggs, and an approximate half cup of egg whites, cup of coconut sugar, quarter cup of Bestie's allulose with monk, approximate half cup of puree, which is applesauce. I think I'm going to put a splash of milk because I think that's a bit short of a half a cup. Splash of my Natura soy just to make up for the rest of that half cup. Just going to make sour milk right in the bowl by adding a wee bit of apple cider. I like what it does. Generous splash of my vanilla, a teaspoon of my soy lecithin, pinch of my pink sea salt, a teaspoon of my xanthan gum, and I'm going to try to split the oil. So I'm going to do a quarter cup of coconut oil. It's hot in my house. It's melted. Quarter cup of olive oil. This is going to be a two-handed job here, I think. So I'm going to grab a spoon. There. So my molasses is a two-handed job, so I'm going to get a couple tablespoons into that bowl.
Yeah, it's yummy.
What do you think of molasses?
Yeah, I still like it.
That's a good source of iron. What do you think, Rosie?
I think it's good. But it's not like
He's out of here. I'm going to give that a stir with my very dicey electrical problem here. It's working! Ah! Almost forgot the baking powder. So let's do a whole tablespoon of baking powder. You could half that with baking soda if you prefer. Some chunky lemon rind. Generous cup of blueberries from our garden. As this sets, it will thicken because flax absorbs moisture, right? So it'll thicken up nicely. And I could do the hemp hearts, but I think I'm just gonna go with some extra blueberries because we are growing them off the hook. Do a greased pan or cups, whatever you wanna do. I'm gonna load it up. I ripped just shy of 2 dozen. So there's 22 and I'm gonna pop them in. Okay, so they've gone in at 350 and I'm gonna check them in 15 minutes. Awesome, that was 15 minutes. There it is, and it's absolutely delicious.